Let's go ahead and get it started with John in Commerce. Hey, John.
Hey, Bob.
Hey.
Hey, I'm calling in defense of Muslims, actually. I'm not a Muslim myself, but I think Muslim teaching and some of the historical claims about Muslim nations, I think you're kind of distorting those.
What am I distorting?
Okay, we'll start with the Quran. I've heard you many times quote the Quran at Sura 9, which reads, "Slay the infidel wherever you find them." And you don't provide any of the context for that. You just kind of leave it at that. And I'm sure I know listeners of yours who take that to mean, hey, Muslim teaching is that you should kill any non-Muslim wherever you find him. But the context of that quote entirely alters the meaning that I think your listeners are taking from it.
All right, tell me how so.
Okay. What's happening here is that Muhammad had a conflict with the residents of Mecca, and he was, teaching one God, and they were pagans, so they chased him out violently. He had conflicts with them, and he had forged a treaty with them. And so Surah 9, this is where it picks up, and it says, Muhammad believed they had violated the conditions of the treaty. So he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give them 4 months to make it right, after which, if they don't repent, we're going to make war on them. And at that point...
Going to kill them.
That's right, kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, slay the infidel wherever you find him, but if he repents of the violation of this treaty, grant him mercy, for Allah is most merciful. And further, if anybody is seeking refuge because of this conflict and doesn't want to be involved in it, let them go free, and they'll have a chance to hear the Muslim teachings and go on and repeat them to the people that they know.
Right,
so in other words,
let me address what you're saying, okay? Because, John, here's one of the problems with what you're saying, and this is what certainly Muslims try to do in defending the Quran. The peaceful Muslims and the jihad Muslims both have parts of the Quran that they can point to, because Muhammad used to be a little bit more peaceful. He didn't used to spread it around as much as he did, okay? When he was, early on in the Quran, you'll actually see some places where he's saying, hey, make peace with unbelievers and whatever. But later on, you will see that he's clearly taking an opposite approach to them in general, not just in the context of that. That's why you have to look at the Quran in context of everything that's said throughout it, because you see that Muhammad, look, it'd be one thing. Your argument would hold some kind of weight if that particular Surah 9 were the only place in the Quran where Muslims are instructed to go fight and kill non-believers. But it is not. It is one of a chorus, a multitude. If I could spend the next hour reading to you the verses throughout the Quran where they're told, believers, take neither Jews nor Christians for your friends, which is Surah 551. Or he instructs them, certainly, as I just said here, slay the polytheists, but you can go to Surah 48:16. You will be called to fighting mighty nation. Fight them until they embrace Islam. It doesn't say fight them until they obey the treaty. Fight them until they embrace Islam. It's Surah 9:29. Fight those who believe not, even if they the people of the book, talking about the Christians and the Jews, until they have willingly agreed to pay the jizya tribute in recognition of their submissive state. It goes on, and literally you have Surah 47:4. Therefore, when ye meet the unbelievers, smite them at their necks. I could go on and on with these verses in the Quran. I don't see how you can consider it a misrepresentation to quote the Quran when it says to go kill the unbelievers where you find them. It's all over the place.
Well, here's the problem. You can raise 15 different verses right now, but you're not going to give me the opportunity to respond to each of those. I have limited time. So what I'm saying is, Surah 9, the context turns the meaning that you are attributing to the Quran into the opposite of what you are conveying. This conflict with the residents of Mecca, it's very well known, secular historians will tell you that Muhammad went into Mecca, had military success, and he said to the residents, he said, put down your sword and no harm will come to you. You can worship as you please. You do not have to be a Muslim. You will be free, but if you don't drop your sword, you will be killed. And for you to take that verse, which is talking about that incident, which was an unprecedented act of mercy. I'm not a fan of Muhammad, but he did some things that were good, and this is one of them. For you to turn that into we should kill any non-Muslim wherever we might find him is to, if anybody treated the Bible in such an out-of-context fashion, you would be outraged, and that's what
First of all, I wouldn't be First of all, I wouldn't be outraged. I would correct it. And the fact is that throughout the Quran, Muhammad made it very clear that you are supposed to be going out there and
running from the text
just because he had well. But once again, though, I've said kill the polytheists wherever you find them, or kill the infidel wherever you find them, or whatever. I've worded it different ways many times. It's the general context the general concept of killing the unbeliever that I'm referring to. All right, I'm not saying okay, let's focus on specifically Surah 9. I don't specifically say, okay, let's talk about Surah 9. Let's focus on Surah 9. I don't make it some kind of expository teaching on specifically Surah 9. All right? I talk about all of the places in the Quran where it overwhelmingly says, kill the infidel. And what you're doing is you're taking this one. It's like, okay, well, this is one of the places where it's like, okay, well, kill the infidel, but these particular infidels, if they go ahead and agree to this contract that we made, okay, then don't go ahead and kill them. But never mind a couple chapters later when he's saying go out and kill them wherever you find them. Yeah. I mean, so I'm just saying you have to look at the whole context of the thing.
I can't. You're not going to let me talk about all of the verses that you bring up, most of which, the ones I'm familiar with, I know you're misrepresenting those as well because you're not dealing with the context of those, like take neither the Jews or infidels as your friend. That's another case of misrepresenting the context.
How's it misrepresenting? It's very simple. Well, take them not as your friends.
What is it? That word can be translated various ways, and one way to translate it is patron. Now, what's happening is the Muslims are at a weakened state when they're very vulnerable. And what was happening was fellow Muslims were afraid, and they were breaking apart from Muslim pact. Now, it's just like in the Bible when the Bible says, hey, if they say, let us follow other gods, you will stone them with stones. Now, a Christian could say, at the time, the Jews were vulnerable, and they did, but later, that's not like a general rule that applies for all time. Things have changed, and that's exactly what is the case with that verse you just quoted.
Yeah, but no, you know what? See, now here's where I have to correct you. That is not true because you don't see in the Quran where it's like, this is what, you don't have a character like Jesus. For example, Muhammad doesn't say, you have heard eye for an eye, okay, but I tell you, love your enemies. Right? You don't have Muhammad saying that. You don't have him saying, here's the way it used to be, but now here's how it is. You don't have that kind of thing.
But nobody is saying that he has to do it exactly like Jesus did.
I didn't say that either.
In different time frames and in different contexts, words can mean different things. So the friend thing that you're talking about is exactly one of those cases. And Surah 9, again, you say, well, take the whole Quran. I can't, again, this text is an unprecedented act of mercy on the act of Muhammad. Again, I don't love the guy, but he did good.
Well, but you know what? Look,
you're running from that text.
No, I'm not running from that text at all. I'm looking at the totality of what the Quran says. I'm looking at the totality of what Muhammad did and what his actual actions were. And his actual actions were to spread Islam by the sword, to behead 800 Jews in front of their families in one day, order them beheaded. What he did in his actual actions and the spreading of Islam was consistent with this interpretation of the Quran that says, go out there and spread Islam by the sword and kill the infidels wherever you find them. This has been consistent.
Does he really mean to be teaching, are you claiming, at Surah 9:5, that for all time, Muslims should kill any infidel wherever they find him?
No, what I'm claiming is that the Quran itself as a whole sends out that basic message, but there are going to be pockets of times where he's applying that particular message to a particular people in a particular setting. But in the Quran as a whole, and the way that he spread Islam as a whole, was not in a particular setting, but to go spread Islam by the sword and kill infidels anywhere that you find them. That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at the totality of it.
I hope you will no longer use that text without any context and just say, slay infidels wherever you find them.
I got to be honest with you. I got to be honest with you, John. I know you like to call in to debate, and that's fine. And in all honesty, it actually gives me a sense of comfort to know that in all of the things that I've talked about Islam over the years on this show, okay, that the best you can do is dig down through the haystack of everything that I've said and find some little needle of, Sura 9:5. Let's stick to that one, Bob, and let's just talk about that. And let me show you how that particular one here happened to be in the context of these people breaking some contract or whatever. I mean, if that's really, if that's well, okay.
You want to give me another segment? We'll do some more, because I have all kinds.
Call me next Friday, because obviously I'm going to get other people involved. But I will tell you this. All right, you know who Mark Gabriel is?
No, I don't.
Okay. Mark Gabriel's not his real name. Mark Gabriel used to be a professor of Islamic history and Quranic studies at Al-Azhar University, the largest Islamic university in the world in Cairo, Egypt. That's where Barack Obama spoke a couple of weeks ago. That's kind of the Harvard University of Islamic universities worldwide. He was a professor there of Islamic studies, Quranic studies and Islamic history. He also graduated second in a class of 6,000. He memorized the entire Quran by the age of 12. He's now a born-again Christian. I had him in this studio sitting across from me, and he absolutely affirms that exactly what I'm saying here, that the overwhelming message of the Quran is to kill the infidels wherever you find them. And these isolated pockets of, in this particular time, he happens to be talking in the context of these people there. It doesn't change or undo the overall message of what he did and historically what he continued to do in the spreading of Islam. That's where I'm disagreeing with you. But, John,
I'll just say the last thing. It's not an argument. If you can, it seems like every time if you can prove that to me, I'm interested to know, because I have Muslim friends and I would love to show them that.
Get one of Mark Gabriel's books and read them.
I will look up Mark Gabriel.
Get one of Mark Gabriel's books and read them. Thanks for your call. More of your calls 2 minutes from now here on the Bob Dutko Show.